Welcome into the Flea Flicker Fancast. We are taking the time to talk a little bit about, as you probably guessed by clicking on this video, the Stefon Diggs tantrum on Sunday after the Bills lost in terrifically bad fashion. I don't know if terrifically bad's the best way to put it, but terrible fashion. There we go. To the Cincinnati Bengals. And gentlemen, we saw the act on the sideline, the throwing his hands up at Josh Allen, like I was open, I was open. I heard somebody reference the Lamar thing where Mark Andrews flashed his hand like he was open, and then Lamar's like, "Yeah, I'm open too." It's like kind of reminded me of that, like, but obviously this was a loss for the Bills comparison, but yeah, and then obviously just storming out, like not even staying with the team for the post game speech. I get the emotion. You're very content, or you're content isn't the right word. You're very fixed on going to the Super Bowl. Like you've been picked as one of the 2 or 3, 4 teams that are going to be probably in the Super Bowl for all season, all off season. People are like, "Yep, the Bills, this is their year." You play like that, and I get the frustration, but I think I got to go back to Tom Brady too, because he and Aaron Rodgers for that matter. But Tom Brady, I think I remember there being a game when he just walked off the field, didn't say a word to anybody. Like I think it's easy sometimes for us to just throw receivers in that group of people that like are complaining and stuff. But quarterback like Tom Brady, like he has been so bad at this the last several years, where he'll just complain and he'll just yell at offensive linemen on the sideline. And so and he's frustrated because they're losing. He doesn't like to lose. Stefon Diggs doesn't like to lose. He wants to win a Super Bowl. Tom Brady doesn't like to lose. He's won 7 Super Bowls, but still he gets frustrated because he's used to winning, So I think I get where Diggs is coming from, and I don't blame him for necessarily being upset on the sideline, but I do think the whole leaving the team, in the locker room, like just leaving, picking up all your stuff and getting out of there, like that's a little bit too much, I think. But I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts. Tony, I'm going to start with you since you're the man that tweeted about it, and let's hear it.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that when I saw it originally, it just didn't strike me like I think it struck a lot of people. A lot of people were really upset about it, or they just took the opportunity to pile on and, oh, this is just him being a diva, or, we've seen this before. And I think Diggs has admitted that some of the behavior that he had in Minnesota, he's even admitted was, he's grown. He's grown as a player. He's grown as a person. I think comparing maybe some of the antics we saw in Minnesota, most notably where we saw Diggs complaining to Kirk Cousins or his offensive coordinator when he wasn't getting the ball while the Vikings were winning games. Obviously, that's not a good look. That's pretty unprofessional. Clearly showing some selfishness there. I don't think this is the same, though. As Carson, you already pointed out, at that point in the game, and we're just talking about the sideline reaction here, they had maybe one possession left where they could have tried to do something. Then they would have probably needed an onside kick, right? It just, at the end of the day, he's trying to provide a spark. I'm not there on the field. I don't know exactly what's going on. But to me, it just seemed like a guy that was fired up. He's frustrated and he's trying to light a spark. And, if I'm a fan of a team, I would rather have my player upset about losing and trying to get guys fired up. And maybe, yeah, you have to choose somebody out than a guy that's complacent with losing, that's either moping around or even worse, just doesn't care, right? So at the end of the day, it didn't bother me. It didn't bother me to see him getting upset. Carson, to your point, I think him just ghosting the team or the coaches after the game, I'm out of here. That's not a great look either. But again, he's an emotional guy. He's a competitor. And while I don't think that's a great look, I mean, there are a lot worse things he could do, certainly, in that situation. So it just didn't bother me as much as I think it did some others. And my last point is more just agreeing with Carson here. I think there is this double standard, and I think it comes with the position. I think we see a lot of quarterbacks do this, namely, again, Carson, you pointed out Tom Brady, where he'll be chewing out an offensive lineman, right, for missing a block or not picking somebody up. We certainly have seen Rodgers, barking at these young receivers, and it's always coined as like, well, they're just trying to motivate, they're trying to be leaders, and I just think it's positionally, it's like it's okay for quarterbacks to do that. For some reason, it's not okay for any other position to do that. Maybe like linebackers, we're okay with them, but definitely not receivers, certainly not running backs. I just didn't see a big problem with it. I'd love to hear, David, your thoughts.
I mean, I've seen a big problem with it. It's a big temper tantrum that should have never happened. I really feel like you guys feel too, like getting your stuff and leaving the locker room and not being able there to be with your team, for the closing, speech or whatever happened. But I just think, it comes a time where some receivers run their course with a certain team. And I feel like going into the season, he was projected to go to the Super Bowl and actually, be a contender, and you get bounced in the first round. So that's kind of a sense of entitlement. So he's throwing that tantrum. And we do understand, like with receivers, I don't care if it's a first round pick, second round pick, or free agent, they always think they're open. And it doesn't matter if it's two guys over the top; they always think they're open, and it takes strong quarterbacks to kind of put them in check, and good offensive coordinators to say, "Look, man, you wasn't open. He's not going to go to you all the time." I just think that it comes down to the point of Diggs is seeing his window close. He's not getting any younger, and he knows this team is going to be changed next year, and this might have been the last time that this window might be here. And he's a smart guy. He could be trying to force his way out to another team that has a more open window for him to succeed. Because if you think about it, like, he's known for the Minnesota Miracle, but then that next game, those Vikings didn't show up, and they haven't been back to the NFC title game since. So you guys know and understand, like, winning in this league is real hard, and when you're that close, there's no guarantee that you're ever going to get back there again. So maybe Diggs is like, man, maybe it's time for me to get out of Buffalo, because during the season, oh, Josh Allen's MVP quarterback, and they're favorite to go to the Super Bowl, and then when that doesn't happen, you get a sense of resentment, and it's just a big. He has to he has to grow up a little bit, and he said he grew up and he matured, but what he did on the sideline, it wasn't called for. You're yelling at a guy to throw you the ball when the game's basically already over. What are you guys going to do? Go over there and play defense? Like, what's what's left to
Yeah.
do? You guys are going to play special teams? I mean, it's just uncalled for. But just like Tony said, that we as fans, we accept that when it comes from the quarterback, or you know high profile players. Me personally, like, Tom Brady should be able to yell at anybody. He's the greatest of all time. You're never gonna. He's Tom Brady, okay? Whatever Tom Brady have seen, he's forgot more football than we ever learned. So that's Tom Brady's exception to the rule. But some guys just, you know, it rubs them the wrong way. And the other thing too is when we always say that it's the passion, but when does that passion become a problem? We've seen it time after time with different receivers. We've seen T.O., for example. T.O. is probably one of the great receivers. He's a great receiver. But we've seen when that production started to slip and that temper tantrum started to be a problem. Well, I don't want Diggs to be labeled as that. So I think he needs to get it together. Uncalled
David, are
for.
you David, are you saying that come August we might see Diggs out there doing push-ups and sit-ups in his front lawn?
I mean, you never know. You never know. I mean, what these guys do, they don't. Back in the day, that was cool, you know, what To did. But what these guys do now, they go to Twitter, they go to Instagram, and they just scrub their whole profile of the current team that they currently play for, and this starts a schism. They say like, "Oh, this guy wants out." I see him doing that. I honestly
Like
do.
Darius Smith,
Like the
perhaps,
Darius
for the
Smith.
Vikings.
Yeah, exactly. I see him doing that because he's. I mean, we know he's done it before, and it might be time for
Which
his exit.
might lead us to another video on the Skull Purple Podcast YouTube channel. So make sure to subscribe to that as well, and
Yeah,
subscribe and like the Overt Sports YouTube channel. But any other closing thoughts on the whole Diggs saga?
trade him.
Trade him. Trade him.
Trade him.
As I said, I know I said it in our full episode, but 45 million cap hit. It's tough. Like unless what David said, where like the Bears are so desperate to get a number one that they are willing to not only pay the $20 million of cap hit that Stefon Diggs is due next year, but also pay for that $45 million dead cap incurment. Incurment? Is that a word? Incurment that the Bills would take on, which I think that's the only way that they would trade Stefon Diggs. And I do think despite the tantrum on Sunday, I think Josh Allen and Stefon Diggs are close. Like I think they're good buddies. I think again, it's just the emotion of it, and I do think people overreacted a little bit for sure. But at the same time, you know, if this continues and this is not something that, you know, is just a one and done thing, then I think you're right there, David, where you said that it's not a good thing for your team. So
No, it's not. Look at the way Odell Beckham did, you know, when with Eli Manning. Like the guy used to kick things and you know, punch kicking tees and do all kind of stuff. And then yeah, he did all kind of things.
After he was shut down by Xavier
yeah,
Rhodes closed.
Exactly. That was okay when you're putting up 1,300 yards a season, 10 touchdowns. But once that production starts to decline, you know, you can't be doing that because you're not the same player. Teams only tolerate that when your production is high. So it's like the good outweighing the bad. We're gonna see what happens, but I say do what they can. You know, they're not built to win a Super Bowl right now, so you might.
Well, there you have it. There you have it. Well, thanks for tuning in to this video. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment your thoughts on the Diggs tantrum, and make sure to catch our next episode. For everybody at the Overt Sports Network, I'm Carson with Steggy and David. We'll catch you in the next one.